どうも、こんばんは。2024年11月2日ですね。では、フィンチ家の奇妙な屋敷で起きたこと、続けてやっていきたいと思います。ほぼ休憩はしてないんですけども、ちょっと配信時間を区切るために一回撮り直しました。さっきですね、グレゴリーのストーリーを見たところですね。オプションで、カメラコントロール反転。これってなんかゲームを立ち上げ直すと設定が戻るみたいですね。
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet... A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard.
「庭での結婚式」ですか。文字読めないですね。これ吹き飛ばせば読めるようになるのかな。
My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met me. We don't need a stepmom, were the words that I
now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
記念碑向こうに見えますね。あ、こっちあった。これちょっと怖いな。トーテムポール的なやつですか。
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined, and as a sign held up his middle finger. The wind picked up, and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent. The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder."
すごい海荒れてますね。物がめちゃくちゃついてきてるんだけど。
wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea, and foam. But I didn't. Until we found you.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
どれもこうストーリーの表現が印象に残りますね。ガスか。なんだろうこれ、ロッククライミングみたいなやつ結構高いところまでありますね。外の景色はこれは何かな、防火設備の場所とかそんな感じ。時計は止まってますね。他は特に見るものないかな。まあ今夜だから結構見えますけども、昼間だと画面の映り込みがあるんで、この暗さだとなかなか見えないですね。こっちでいいんかな、違うかな。違うような気がする。お、セーブされてるな。ロッカー。この部屋何ですか？なんか塗り固められてない？まさかこれ登っていくとか？そうですよ多分。
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
ここが母さんの部屋ですか？これガスかな、さっきの。 これグレゴリーでしょうかね。何これ。なんかキーボードありますね。あ、なんか写真、外国の写真ありましたね。インドだったのかな。なんか撮れるな。ちょっと見てみるか、とりあえず。
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay. My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English.
外出れるっぽいかな。まあ、まずこっち見てみましょうかね。
Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died. Louis was born a year later. When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that.
あ、ここが一番上ですか。あ、まだもうちょっとあるか。まだありますね、結構。こんな上あったのあれですね。上結構あるな、まだ。
And for a while, things were good. Almost normal. But it didn't last.
また何かあったんですかね。お、袋とか、あ、世界地図。お、ノートパソコンじゃないですか。プリンター。だいぶ新しいものが置いてありますね。グレゴリーかな、あれ。で、父親と母親と、左側のが主人公ですかね。この辺電気あるんですね。なんか楽しげな雰囲気ですが、なんかあったらしいです。
The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle. After Milton disappeared, the only thing he left behind was a room full of paintings.
ミルトンは消えてしまったのか。部屋は入れませんね。あ、でもこうやって見ることができる。あ、入れるんか、これ。ちなみに上の方はああなってますね。あといくつか部屋があります。めちゃくちゃ不安定じゃないですか、あれ。大丈夫？何があったんですかね。これ気になるな。なるけど特に何も調べるとこはない。調べられるとこ、ありました。
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush. I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
ミルトン1992から2003ってなってますけども、でも見つかってないですよね。いやでもこのねパラパラ漫画よく作りますね。これめちゃくちゃ根気ないとできませんよね、これ。
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors.
謎が多すぎますね。
Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
じゃあ多分上の方の部屋行けるんかな。 こは通れない。何か置いてある。ちょっと座り方直しますか。正座みたいな感じなんで足が若干痛くなってきます。
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room, until Mom got him a job at the cannery. Everyone always told me to stay out of Lewis's room, except Lewis.
なんでしょうね、この部屋は。ルイス、1988から2010か。あ、こっからいけないか。どっかから、ここ今どこにいます？この辺か。これかな。
Lewis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
お、ヘッドホンとかマウスとか、ああすごいなんか高そうなキーボードですね、これ。デュアルモニターだ、しかも。でもこのまだワイドになってない頃ですね。
He was so proud of being Indian. I think for him, it was a way to be something other than just a Finch.
Ah, 戻っちゃった。
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery. But he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander.
Ah, 動ける動けるのこれなんか見下ろし型のゲームになってるゲームみたいになってる
I asked him to describe it. He said he started small. Imagining a labyrinth.
なんかファンタジー風の服装ですね。やばい、魚で見えない。あ、缶詰工場で働いてこう缶詰たくさんありましたよね。最
He
初の方
feeled
で。
his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head.
But 空想とこの移動の中でも魚が
He took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more.
そうなんかクォータービューになったんですけど、こっちから来たんか。一応戻れはしないのか。
I worried about him then.
面白いですねこれ。
Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia.
Cool ですね。
He built the city up slowly, brick by brick.
あ、
Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him. That all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him.
すごい、なんかほんと船でルイストピアを出発した。
He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Louis kept sailing on.
Like ミネアポリスじゃなくてミネアポルイスはちょっとじわりますね。
In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen. The queen was on her own quest for radiant rainbows. He followed the sound of her silver harp. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. but he was so proud of having created it.
なんか表情がちょっとじわじわきますね。
In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
Oh. 戻ってきた。想像から戻ってきた。ここの部屋はさっきの場所？
He began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
これ上乗ってくんかな。
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on inviting him.
モリーだ、モリー。でかいな、しかし。
His queen waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. rest, I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
演出すごかったですね。あ、これゲーム機ですよ。プレステに似てるなぁ。このコントローラーの根元の部分が特になんかメモリーカードっぽいのあるし、なんかこっちで形はスーファミっぽいんだけど、こう十字キーがまあプレステっぽくて、デュアルショックのこのアナログスティックみたいなのついてますね。プレステっぽいな。
Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
これ私のことですかね。たくさんゲームしてるんだけどめちゃくちゃ下手っていう。あ、こっち進めるようだな。エグジットですね。
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie.
ここに階段あったけど壊れたんか。ここ登れる？あ、無理。飛び移れない？ちょっと危ないですね。こっちか。
I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed.
押さなければよかった。なんかあったんですかね。
But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind.
あ、これ下にあった写真か。
What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
ここが最上階ですか。多分そうですね。ついに来ましたか。 母親がこう屋根裏部屋にこう移ったみたいなこと言ってましたもんね。それがここなんかな。
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
To our final night together, and all our final nights apart.
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
お、動けるな。
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
The main character が過去に見たも
The
の
thing
か。
you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning. Okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. No, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way.
全く見えなくなった。やばい。ちょっと方向感覚が。どっちどっち？
I got turned around. For a while, I wandered. I started seeing things. things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me.
これ昔の家のあたりまでやってきたんか。
Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by.
Oh, 動かせる。言葉がたくさん出てきますね。
My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you. And tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
今ありがとうヨハンっていうトロフィーもらいましたね。あ、犬がかわいいですね。主人公も亡くなっちゃったんか。クジラのありましたね、カエルと。あ、でも最後ね、その主人公の日記をこう見てた子供いましたよね。ゲームのコントローラー、オルゴールですね。ということで、メニューに戻ってきました。ストーリーをリプレイするオプションが追加されました。最初からプレイするにはエディスを選択してください。いやー、ちょっとこれはあれですね、悲しい物語でしたね、本当。私今午前4時半ぐらいで、あれもう5時？あ、5時半ですね。5時半でちょっとこれから眠るんですけども、なんか眠れるかなこれ。でも主人公の誰かにいろいろ伝えたいっていうのは届いたんですね。いやでもフィンチ家の呪いって一体何だったんだろう。で古い家をねこう海を渡って引っ越そうとしたけど、もうちょっとでね陸地に着きそうなところで波にさらわれたという、古い家にねこう近づいていくシーンとかすごかったですね。まさか行けるとはっていう。まあ物語としてはね悲しい展開ではあったんですけども、表現手法が本当バラエティに富んでて、バーバラのねとこもすごかったし、モリーもそうですし、インパクトみんなありましたね、それぞれ。 想像の世界をこう膨らませていた、演出もすごかったし、なんかゲームの進化をこう凝縮したようなシーンみたいなね感じもしましたね。見下ろしからクォータービューになって、で主観視点になってみたいなね。それではちょっと今日の昼過ぎから少し用事もあるんで、そろそろ眠らなくちゃいけないので、配信もこんなとこですかね。どうしようかな。リプレイちょっとまだ実績関係やり残したことあるんで、それらもやって、また裏でちょっとプレステ5版とかやるかもしれませんが、ちなみにこれクレジットって別バージョンですね。時間は1時間5分、ちょうどいいでしょうかね。いや本当に悲しいというか切ないというか、なんかすごいしんぺりする感じの、終わり方ではありましたけども、でもね、その時間をもうみんな懸命に生きていったと。グレゴリーとかね、多分1年くらいなのかな、で亡くなっちゃったんだけども、なんかすごい幸せそうにしてたみたいなね、そういうエピソードもありましたけど、短くてもすごく太く生きたんじゃないかとか、そういうふうに思いますね。それではこの辺で配信を終わりにしたいと思います。ご視聴ありがとうございました。では失礼いたします。お疲れ様です。ちょっと配信確認して、よし、では失礼いたします。